supremacy. And with this particular video, I want to show how the Juneteenth holiday itself proves that black people are not free. The very holiday that's supposed to celebrate black emancipation, black independence, black freedom proves that blacks are not free in the United States of America. Now, for one, we never became independent of the white man. So I don't know how we can have black independence. We became from being under one white man to being under the white government, white establishment, and white institutions. Back in the day, this just one white person used to have ownership over you. One person, one master. Now, the organization of white men working together as a majority and as an institution have become your master. The government has become your new slave master. So versus you working on a plantation, they create the prison industrial complex and lock you up in jail for slave labor. So they're prison colonies. The prison have become the new slave plantations that are ran by the government. So you really just traded one master for another. You have never been given your independence. Because to give you independence would have to give you land. Or acknowledged land that you have control over. So that you can have your own government and your own jurisdiction. And be a power within yourself. So we never been independent from the white man. There's no land we have in America where we are that's considered our land, that's considered Africa, America, that will make us independent. So we've never ever been independent of the white man in America, ever. He will not allow that. We haven't been freed or emancipated either. The very holiday itself is June 19th. Most of you all have to celebrate it on the 16th or the 17th. What holiday do you know that someone has to celebrate 4 days in advance? You know why? Because the 16th and the 17th are weekends. So happen the 17th is Father's Day, which is today. But the 16th and the 17th are weekend days. So you have to celebrate on a weekend because Juneteenth actually falls on the 19th, which would be a Tuesday. Tuesday you got to be at work because Juneteenth is not a federal holiday. So you have to go to work. You have to go into the slave. You have to go into the plantation on June 19th. So you won't even be able to celebrate your illusion of black freedom, independence, or emancipation on the 19th because you got to go to work. Because you got to work for your slave master. You got to work for the white man. You have to support their institutions. You have to. You don't have a choice if you're going to survive in this country. You have to go to work. You're a slave to your job. Whether you want to go in or not, you better take your ass in there. So you won't even be able to celebrate. You don't have the freedom that the slaves had that created that day as a holiday. Like they was actually able to celebrate on the actual 19th. So that means they were freer than you. The slaves that started that holiday in Texas, who became aware that they were free, per se free, 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation by Abraham Lincoln. They found out late, because blacks were not literally freed after the Emancipation Proclamation, because they were still under the Confederate in the Deep South, who still fought and put up resistance, and they kept slaves well after the Emancipation Proclamation. So these slaves found out 2 years later in Texas, and that would be what, 1867? They found out that, hey, you know, we free, and they celebrated it. Wow. But you ain't gonna be celebrating on June 19th. You going to work. Look at the irony of that. You can't even celebrate your freedom and your independence, even though you ain't free or independent either. You was liberated from individual white ownership to governmental and collective white organized ownership. That's a fact. You ain't been freed, because you're still under the same government that enslaved you, that allowed slavery, that let slavery be legal. You under the same government that created slavery. You under the same people that enslaved you. They're in power now. They're the government, the same race. How have you been freed? Freed to where? Freed to whom? You ain't been freed. You are not free. You are still under the man who enslaved you, still makes up the laws, still polices you, still governing over you. If you've been freed, they shouldn't say nothing else to you, man. They shouldn't have no more laws or nothing pertaining to your existence. If you've been freed, they should leave your ass alone. If you have been freed. The problem is that which defines freedom cannot free you, because as long as it continues to define things for you, you're still under it, because now you're under what their definition of freedom is. So how are you free if you have to live inside of somebody else's definition of what freedom is? Because they'll tell you what it means. Oh, it means blah 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 blah. That ain't no goddamn freedom. I'm also free from your definitions too. I should be free from all of your definitions, but I'm not free from your definitions, because I have to acknowledge how I'm considered to be free in accordance with how you define reality, making me a slave to your reality. I'm still a slave. I got to get Webster's dictionary. I got to get Macmillan's dictionary. I got to get Black Law's dictionaries. I got to get the white man's books and papers and documentations to live inside of his definition of freedom. But if you just thought you were free, if you was just under the illusion that you were free, you won't even be able to celebrate it. You got to go work Tuesday. How you free? You got to celebrate your holiday 4 days early. There's no holiday in the United States that have to be celebrated 4 days early unless it's a 4-day celebration. Tell the truth, it ain't going to be a 4-day celebration. It's going to be a 2-day. Saturday, Sunday, Monday you going back to work. Tuesday you going back to work. Some people say, well, I'm working for myself. I'm working to pay my bills. I'm working to buy what I want. That employment works for me. Well, when you're employed to build up their institutions, and you're employed to build up their society, and you're employed to build up their establishment, then you're still a slave in the end, because your employment in the end doesn't really work for you. Your employment is not going to stop police brutality. It's not going to deal with black homelessness. It's not going to deal with black incarceration. Your employment is not going to deal with racial profiling. Your employment is a lot of times not really even going to create more jobs for black people. Your employment is not going to create more black businesses, more black entrepreneurs. Your employment is more than likely not going to do any of that. Your employment is going to build up the white institutions and white establishments and make them stronger. And the stronger they get, the more you have to beg for freedom. The more you have to beg for human rights, for respect and dignity. Because through your employment, you are making their establishment stronger. You work for Walmart, eventually that Walmart will become an empty shell for FEMA, for the government to house and throw blacks into them. Your employment makes their institution stronger. So I'm talking about, what about black economy? The black economists. We need to have our own black economy and we have to get black economics. But if you don't control the economy, if you don't own the economy, there is no such thing as black economics. Because black economics is strengthening white economics and the white economic reality, giving them more power, making them more stronger, and it's not working for you in the end. It's allowing you to buy a few status symbols, get a few pleasures, a little luxury, a little comforts here and there. But when it comes to justice for blacks, respect and dignity and human rights for blacks, independence, sovereignty, self-sustainability for blacks, nah, you ain't doing nothing for that. Nah, not at all. You're helping white power in the end. That's a whole nother video though. You're not free. Get up on Juneteenth and say, you know what, I'm free. I ain't going to work, man. I'm free. I'm going to celebrate my freedom and my independence. Do it. I mean, you're free. Are you really? How are you free if you have to pay for everything to live and exist? If everything you need cost, and you have to get the money from your slave master, and then you got to go and give it back to your slave master for what you want. How are you free? Everything's cost. You're in debt to live tomorrow. You're in bondage. Capitalism is human bondage for blacks. It might be posterity and prosperity for whites, but it involves us to participate in human bondage. Because in order for us to live in this country, we got to pay for justice. We need a lawyer. We got to pay for a roof over our head. We got to pay for the land. We got to pay taxes. How are we free? How are we free? Now, when you got your own land and ain't nobody saying nothing to you, you're growing your own food and everything you do builds your own reality, where you make the rules and the laws and you're the judge in the Supreme Court. I mean, then you're free. But until then, you ain't free. You got to pay, man. You in debt already before you get out your bed on Juneteenth. June 19th. You in debt before you get out your bed. You're a debtor. You are a debtor. And your place of employment is a debtor's prison where you're paying off to make a living. You're paying for your living. You're paying for the gas you use. That's the white man's. The electricity that you use is the white man. The mortgage from the bank is the white man. You're paying. You're already in debt. How are you free? What did they free you to and free you into? They freed you into debt, into debtorship. It's King Noble Black Supremacy signing out.